So yesterday, President Obama had signed in executive actions on gun control. And before that, he actually had a press conference, and I want to show you a couple of clips from that, and then we'll go and talk about what he actually signed into law.
After Sandy Hook, Joe and I worked together with our teams, and we put forward a whole series of executive actions to try to tighten up the existing rules and systems that we had in place. But today we want to take it a step further. So let me outline what we're going to be doing. Number one, anybody in the business of selling firearms must get a license and conduct background checks or be subject to criminal prosecutions. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it over the internet or at a gun show. It's not where you do it, but what you do. We're also expanding background checks to cover violent criminals who try to buy some of the most dangerous firearms by hiding behind trusts and corporations and various cutouts. We're also taking steps to make the background check system more efficient. Under the guidance of Jim Comey and the FBI and our Deputy Director, Tom Brandon at ATF, we're going to hire more folks to process applications faster, and we're going to bring an outdated background check system into the 21st century.
All right, so there you have President Obama talking about how he's going to strengthen the background check system. That's a good thing. I mean, you're going to see more efficient background checks. You might even get your gun faster under these new rules. You've got more people checking. That's great. Now, some people will ask, okay, well, what about mental health? What about mental health? Well, President Obama also has plans on how to help out with mental health. Let's listen to this.
Number three, we're going to do more to help those suffering from mental illness get the help that they need. So, high-profile mass shootings tend to shine a light on those few mentally unstable people who inflict harm on others, but the truth is that nearly 2 in 3 gun deaths are from suicides. So a lot of our work is to prevent people from hurting themselves. That's why we made sure that the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, finally, that law made sure that treatment for mental health was covered the same as treatment for any other illness. And that's why we're going to invest $500 million to expand access to treatment across the country.
So there you have it. $500 million to sort of expand mental health. That's a great thing. I know a lot of conservatives were calling for, oh, let's do mental health. Let's get more mental health. Why aren't you doing anything on mental health? Well, there you have it. He's actually doing something on mental health. He's giving more money, more funding to help with mental health. That's a good thing, right? So there's a lot of stuff. In total, there's about 23 different executive orders that were signed into law by President Obama yesterday. I want to go over a few of them here. It actually improves incentives for states to share information with the background check system. It's very important. It also directs the Attorney General to review categories of individuals prohibited from having a gun to make sure that dangerous people don't always slip through the cracks. Now, it happens. It'll still probably happen after this. After all, there's no law that's perfect. But if you can at least stop a few more, it's worth it. It's worth it. Not only that, but it proposes rulemaking to give law enforcement the ability to run a full background check on an individual before actually returning a gun that they've already taken. Now, there are specific instances where where law enforcement can take a gun away from someone. In the cases of domestic violence, for example, they can take that gun for a while and then they can end up giving it back. Now, they're able to run a background check on that person before giving their gun back. So that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Not only that, Another thing that seems to make sense is to launch a national safe and responsible gun ownership campaign. That's actually something that I believe in. As somebody who's been around guns, who's worked at a shooting club, who's shot guns before, and has been around many responsible gun owners, I can say that a lot of people who own guns are very responsible, good people. Let's be honest about that. You don't get anything from demonizing gun owners who are just good, regular people like you and I. They just happen to enjoy shooting. I also enjoyed shooting. It's actually fun. But as long as you do it safely. And doing these sorts of safe and responsible gun ownership campaigns, I think that's a good thing. Now, I'm not as liberal as some of my counterparts when it comes to the issue of guns. I believe in, I do believe in the Second Amendment. I do believe that it's a right, but I also think that it's a right that you shouldn't take for granted. It's a right that you need to be careful of. It's something that you shouldn't take lightly. Guns are dangerous weapons. They are made to kill. So you have to be careful. You can't treat them as if they are toys. And that's one of the issues that I see with gun ownership today, is that there are some gun owners out there that do not treat their weapons for the dangerous instruments that they are. So that's just something that I feel. So I think that this is a good thing, launching a national safe and responsible gun ownership campaign. Now, also this law reviews safety standards for gun locks and gun safes, which is also a good thing. I'm actually a big proponent in gun safes. Locking your gun up, locking your ammunition up, keeping them separate so that people, especially toddlers, which have been shooting people in the face with other people's guns that have been lying around, that's been a big problem. We've had more shootings from toddlers getting a hold of someone's gun than of terrorists have attacked in America. It's an issue. Maybe it's something we need to look at. And that's also, I think, a part of responsible gun ownership, is knowing how to safely store your weapon away from your ammunition so that the wrong people don't get their hands on it. Once again, it's part of taking personal responsibility with the deadly weapon. It's actually respecting your own right to own a gun. Now, there's a lot of really important things in this. Another one, and this is amazing: nominate an ATF director. I wasn't aware that there wasn't an ATF director already there. That seems weird. That seems weird to me. But then again, there are a lot of cabinet posts and bureaus that don't have leaders. And I think a lot of that is because, I don't think a lot of that is because of congressional inaction and Republicans blocking nominations. It absolutely is because of that. And so President Obama has had to take the executive action route. Like, a lot of these things could have went through Congress. These are common sense. They make sense. Even the NRA is like, what, is that it? We don't care about that stuff. It's common sense stuff. It's nothing drastic. It's nothing that's going to take away your rights. It's just common sense stuff. Nominating an ATF director makes sense. Why haven't we done it? It's because of Congress. Congress, the Republican Party especially, and there are some pro-gun Democrats that do so as well, they get millions of dollars in campaign contributions from the NRA to block anything. No matter how common sense a proposal it is, they block it. They get in the way of it because they don't want you actually doing anything about guns. Now, there's a few things here as well. Now, there are, for example, one of them is issue a presidential memorandum directing the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, to research the causes and prevention of gun violence. Now, getting data and getting information on how to prevent gun violence, that seems like the most common sense idea out of everything. Hey, let's find out what's going on. Let's get some data. So it would probably surprise you to know that Congress was blocked from being able to do that. That they actually had a ban on doing research for the CDC on gun violence. That's fucked up. Why would you sit there, if you're a gun owner, wouldn't you want the information so that you could be safer with your gun? No, it's because people who work for the NRA, people who work for the lobbyists, the gun lobby, they want to stand against that because they're afraid of the results of any studies. Now, I've said it before. America doesn't have a gun problem. We've got a math problem. I think we've got too many guns in the hands of too many people that shouldn't have them. And I'm not saying we should go and grab everybody's gun. That's ridiculous. I just said it before. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe everybody has a right, if they are properly trained and licensed and stuff, and actually know how to use and respect their weapon, that they should be able to have it. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But there are people who are afraid that information that shows that, hey, too many people do have guns that shouldn't, will impact their gun sales. And this is what it comes down to in the gun lobby. They just want to make money. They make money by selling more guns. That's what they do. So, look, there's a lot of these executive orders. As I said, there are 23 in total. And I'm not going to go over them all. I'm just kind of summarizing some of these that I think are really important. Now, on the issue of these executive orders, now, I've heard and I've argued with people who say that this is an executive overreach, and that it would have an impact on law-abiding gun owners. You hear that all the time. Yeah, you're just hurting law-abiding gun owners. You're making it harder for them to get their guns. Well, for one, I don't necessarily see a huge problem with that if they get their gun in the end. So they have to wait another day. Even Ronald Reagan was in favor of that, and saying, so what if you got to wait another day to make sure that somebody who's mentally ill and might go on a rampage doesn't get a gun? It's worth you waiting an extra day to get a background check. Your convenience shouldn't be the forefront of this. It should be safety at the forefront over convenience. And in fact, none of these executive orders would have any sort of impact on the guns people currently own or would like to purchase. And all these proposals regarding limiting the availability of assault weapon would actually be proposed for congressional action. So all of this stuff is within the purview of the executive branch. He can do these. Now, the other stuff that he proposes, he can't do by himself. He actually has to have congressional action to do a lot of these other things that actually would impact gun owners, such as an assault weapons ban. So it actually does not create what they call a constitutional crisis. It just wouldn't. So you've got to put this argument away, because it just isn't valid. It has no validity. The White House, in doing these things, has not overstepped its executive authority. And those are just facts. And I'm sorry if you may not like the facts, but it doesn't matter. Facts, it doesn't matter if you believe them or not, will always still be facts. But I got to give President Obama credit for actually taking this on and doing something. It may not be much. It may not, of course it won't stop all mass shootings. It wouldn't have stopped Sandy Hook, etc., etc. But it does something. And doing something is much better than doing nothing.